Hello, everyone. Welcome to the July Native American Fiber Program NAFP Zoom webinar. I would like to introduce Watson Whitford. He comes from the Chippewa, Cree, and Navajo nations. He currently attends Montana State University studying environmental horticulture. Whitford holds the position of male co-president for the United National Indian Tribal Youth Organization, also called Unity, which serves across Turtle Island. So I am going to hand the mic over to our speaker, Watson. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much for thinking about me and asking me to be a part of this series. And I'm really thankful to be here today. Today is a really amazing day. I'm really thankful again to be here. Really quickly, let's see. I'm going to start sharing my screen, and then I'll get into my introduction. This is my little presentation. Don't mind all my tabs. Don't look at those. Okay. Um, Tansekiwaw nuwa kumagantik kitamskate nuwaw kakyo wapanatag sigason asni watsitikutsunia nistanon nitatupunan egwa yat kedo shidene she watson Whitford she tabahan ishle chupakri bashish chin but atni dashiche chupakri dashinale. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Watson Whitford, and I come from the Chippewa Cree tribe here in Rocky Boy, Montana. And I also come from the Navajo Nation. My family comes from the border of Arizona and Utah in a little community called Red Mesa. Arizona, Utah, it's on both sides of the border. So um, that's where my mom's side of the family comes from. And so I have roots all over. My dad comes from the Chippewa Cree tribe here. And this tribe consists of both the Ojibwe Chippewa and the Cree people. So I really do come from three different tribes. And I'm really thankful that I have the opportunity to represent all three of them and to grow up learning about the traditions and teachings from each of the tribes. So I currently attend Montana State University. I study environmental horticulture. And at first, I was studying plant sciences, but I felt that environmental horticulture would be a better way that I can help my community and give back to my people for all the things that they've shared with me and given to me this far in my life. And so, with that, I hope to use this in a way to help produce food here in Rocky Boy. We live in a pretty rural area in Montana. Montana is such a widespread state, and so our closest grocery store, Walmart, is about 30 minutes away. And so, in a way, we live in a food desert. And the same could be said about my other tribe on the Navajo Nation. It's about an hour and a half drive to a Walmart. So, both of my homelands, we live in a food desert in our modern sense, but we are so rich in our traditional foods and our medicines on our homelands. And so, um, you could both think of it in both ways where we do live in a food desert, but also we have so much resources at home. So that's a little bit about my education and a little bit about my leadership is I currently serve as the male co-president for the United National Indian Tribal Youth Organization, which, as mentioned, is a nationwide youth leadership organization to help young people have the tools to make changes in their community. And so uh, we have two conferences for this organization. One happens in February, our mid-year conference, and then one happens every beginning of July every year. And that our last conference brought together around 3,000 Indigenous youth to receive these tools for their leadership in their communities, but also to share about what they're doing and how they're making changes in their communities. And so that's a little bit about my leadership. And again, I'm really thankful to be here, and we'll get started with this presentation about implementing land management traditions in the future through youth leadership. And when I was thinking about this title, I wasn't too sure about land management because for me, I don't see it as management. I see it more as relationship with the land. So we're not managing the land. We're not, we're finding our relationship and how we fit in with the land. And so the land, our Mother Earth, the plants, the animals, they all know what they're doing. They all know their part in this. And so that's our part, is to try and figure out how we can help our Mother Earth, the land, the animals, the plants, the water, all of those, to protect them, to speak on behalf of them. And I think that's one of my jobs, is to speak on behalf of our Mother Earth, to hopefully protect her, to speak up for her in these different spaces. Um, so just again, I did my introduction, and these are just some of the people that make it possible for me to be in these spaces, to do this work. This is on the top right corner. This is my family. Um, I have three younger siblings, and they're all sisters. So I grew up with sisters, and then of course my parents, my dad Dustin Whitford and my mom Winter Whitford, and then my siblings Danae Whitford, Miuskamin, and then Gisagusqua. So I'm really thankful for them and all the help and support that they've given me. To be where I'm at now, to be in these spaces to share and speak. But also, I'd like to acknowledge my elders here in the community of Rocky Boy. They've shared so much, and I'm really thankful for the connection and relationship I've been able to build with my elders so that I can be in these spaces as well. And I have so much respect and love for these elders here because they hold everything that we need, everything that we know, to be Indigenous peoples. And I feel like the same could be said for a lot of other Indigenous communities everywhere. Our elders are the knowledge keepers. They keep this knowledge for us and pass it on to our generation so that we can continue that cycle of passing on this traditional knowledge and our traditional ways of life. And then on below that picture are my some of my relatives from my mom's side of the family down south, my Navajo relatives. And then I had opportunities to travel to Washington, D.C. to speak with different leaders. I've had opportunity to um, speak with former Vice President Kamala Harris. And so I'm really thankful for that. Um, oh, let me see.
Watson, this is Fred. I think you need to click to the next slide because we're still seeing the intro slide.
Okay, let's see. It says your screen sharing is paused. Let me see. Nope. Let me try to stop sharing and then, oh, right here. Here we go. Okay, now can you see it? Okay,
Yes.
sorry. It's probably confusing talking about all those pictures and couldn't see anything. So again, my family's in the top right corner, and then some of my relatives from down south, below that. And then again, I had some opportunities to travel to Washington, D.C. to talk to different leaders. Um, and the headdress that I'm wearing in that picture on the bottom came from my great great grandfather, who was the last to conduct all of our ceremonies here on the Rocky Boy Reservation. And then I also danced the prairie chicken dance at our powwows. My family traveled to different powwows across Turtle Island. We traveled from Minnesota to Arizona to California, all the way to Canada. and dance at different powwows and share our styles of dance with our relatives, with family, um, and the different communities, and to hopefully make people feel well with the way we dance as well. My style of dance, the prairie chicken dance, has a story from our Cree people. There's also stories from the Blackfeet people. And then the same could be said about all the different dances that we have, the grass dance, the traditional dance, the fancy, the jingle, and all these other dances that we have. So that's a really big part of who I am as well, is our traditional powwow dancing. And then on the left, the two pictures are of our Unity cohorts and the people that I worked with in leadership. And so I could go more into that on this um, next one. And so this was our cohorts for the last, let's see, this was just earlier this year. So each of these cohorts get renewed every year. And so in the middle, you can see us in the darker shirts. This was our executive committee. And the executive committee represents all of the youth councils in the US. And so there's different regions, different representatives represent each region. So we have the Rocky Mountain region, the Midwest region, the Pacific, the Southwest, the Western, Southern Plains, Great Plains, Midwest. Oh yeah, I already mentioned that one. Northeast, Southeast. And so like, for example, the Rocky Mountain region, because I'm from that region, represents all the youth councils in Montana and Wyoming. And then for the Pacific region, they would represent all the youth councils in California and in Hawaii. And so we just had our last conference in San Diego, and we had some amazing cultural sharing from the tribes in that area, the bird dancing, the bird singing, and the different traditional games that they have in those areas, the singing. It was very beautiful, and so I know a lot of our relatives on that are on now are from California. And so, again, I just would like to mention that you guys have a beautiful home. And I'd like to thank you guys for sharing that space with us for this conference. And then, so again, for the executive committee, it consists of our regional representatives and then also the two co-presidents, myself and our former female co-president, Caitlin Johnston, who comes from the Bishop Paiute tribe down there in California as well. And then below in the blue shirts, we have our IYLC, our Indigenous Youth Leadership Cohort, and there's Indigenous leaders that come from Canada, from Hawaii, from Mexico, from Honduras, from Colombia. Um, and so we have representatives from each of these countries as well that are indigenous to these lands, to South America. And they came to our conference and shared the things that they're doing in their communities to make change for the better for their communities. Some of them are educators teaching math in their indigenous languages. Some of them are speaking, some of them are lawyers as well. And so it's really awesome to see the different things that are happening across the world. And it's a place for us to find encouragement and inspiration as other Indigenous youth leaders to continue the work that we're doing. And then lastly, all in the red shirts behind us are the 25 under 25 awardees cohort. So all these young people are doing great things in their communities, making changes, and they're acknowledged for that work that they're doing. So some, for example, some people helped with the voting process and getting our tribes to go and vote during this past election. Some of them are making films to portray and to share stories about our traditional teachings in our tribes. Some of them are doing work with food sovereignty. Some of them are doing work with tribal leadership and also becoming lawyers. And so it's a really powerful an inspirational group of young people that are making changes in their communities. And that's what unity is about giving those tools to these young people so that they could make changes in their communities, but also to go out into the world and explore and to find ways to bring good things back into their communities. Maybe one tribe does something and we could bring it into the other tribe and share those teachings, or different things like that. And so that's a little bit about unity in my work, in my job with that. So I would just like to mention that as well. And so really quickly, I'd like to share a short video. It's about 4 minutes. This just shares a little bit about my way of thinking as a young person. This video, this little documentary was recorded when I was 16 years old. And it's a video series directed and filmed by Leah Jetson, a lady who comes from Washington, D.C. And she had a vision to go across the nation and visit with 10 young people and to ask them about the work that they're doing there. She worked with a pilot. She worked with a air balloon, hot air balloon pilot, a plane pilot, a poet, other young people that are a musician. And so there's different people that she went across the country and filmed and had them share their story. And so it gave that voice to them to share about what they're passionate about. So I'll share this video with you all. And again, to share a little bit more about the way I think and the way I was raised and my thinking about things. So, and then let me know if you can hear it as well. We'll try it really quick. Are you guys able to hear that?
No.
No?
No, can't
Okay.
hear it.
Let me see. I know there's something with the sound. Oh, right here. Okay, let me try it again. Can you hear it now? Okay.
There's always two sides to something. Life is a lot of balancing things. A lot of trying to figure out where that balance is, where you can go to find that balance, what you have to do to find that balance. There's kids that can do so much great things, but then they don't. If it's not shown at home or get distracted by these things such as social media, drugs, alcohol, that's a big problem on a lot of these reservations in the United States. Young kids, like my age, they get into things like that. I want to be successful. I'm gonna have to make that happen myself, hoping that other people can see, like he can do it, that I have the mindset that I'm strong, taking these different opportunities to show my friends that, it's possible. They can do it too. Each tribe has their own different stories that they have, and it's passed down only by word. These stories are almost like our books, our Bible. These different stories would help them understand where they come from, who they are as a person, or their teachings, their culture, why the sky is blue, why the sand is red, why the trees are green, why the things are the way they are. The reason why I think it's really important to tell these stories, to be able to retell them and tell them again through generations and generations, is because it's something that's getting lost. As we lose these stories, we start losing our teachings. When we lose those teachings, then we start losing the way who we are, and then we don't have anything after that. want them to know that there's hope out there. There's opportunities that they can take. Even though they might not have a lot of money, they can still do something that could help them. If you were to cut yourself, you see, like, there's red blood. If you were to go to somebody across the ocean, they had a cut on their hand, it would be red blood. Even though we might not believe in all the same creator, God, different deities, we're still the same. There's people out there that fight each other because they don't believe in the same thing. Maybe there's somebody in need. A plant that looks like it's dying, give it some water. A person that looks like they need help, talk to them. Tell a story. One word that always keeps coming back to me is akamema. Akamema. In the Cree language, it means not to give up, to persevere, to keep going. All of that together in one word.
So the title of the series is called Before We Could Drink because it's about young people under the age of 21 that are doing different things in their communities. So I just wanted to share that video to give you a little, I guess, glimpse into the way I think about our world and the different things that we have. And, hopefully some of these things could be implemented in these spaces, especially with everything going on in the world. It's scary. It's as a young person, thinking about my future. Um, it can be scary at times, but when we look at our traditional ways of teaching, our traditional ways of life, that love, that care, compassion for one another is the main thing that's gotten us here today and allowed us to live for thousands and thousands of years. And so that's just a little bit of what what I've I guess what I think and how I believe. And so go back to my presentation. Let's see. And so going back over to the presentation, just going into a little bit about, let's see. Going back into a little bit about my people and where we come from. So the Cree people, we had a chief that led us to where we're at today. His name was Chief Little Bear. And a lot of our Cree people came from Canada, Saskatchewan, Alberta. But they've also traveled as far south as Montana. And even we have stories long time ago about how we have relatives way farther south too. We have stories about that the where Mexico is at too, which I just learned about today. And so we traveled a lot, and there's a lot of stories about our relationship and our connection with other tribes. And so we have a very powerful and very powerful origin story. And then our creation story says that we come from the Hudson Bay area, the Great Lakes area. Um, and then also our Ojibwe side, the Chippewa people come from the Great Lakes area as well. And then our Navajo people, we believe that we were originated within the four sacred mountains of the Navajo people. And now we live in the four corners of the US, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona. Um, and I'd like to mention there's a picture on here of Art Raining Bird. And so earlier I mentioned that was my great great grandfather who used to conduct all of the ceremonies here in Rocky Boy. And so his headdress was the one that I wore in Washington, D.C. And so he was a very knowledgeable person about our traditional ways of life, the connection to the land, our ceremonies. And he was, the way I was told by an elder was that he was a walking institution of knowledge about our traditional ways of life and how the world works around us. And I believe that's the same as a lot of our other elders in our different communities. In all of your communities, our elders, our ancestors used to be walking institutions of how our lives are meant to be, our traditional stories, our songs, our ceremonies. They knew how to conduct these things. They knew how to sing these songs to help our people, to heal our people, and to connect to the land. And so I just like to mention that as well. And so just a little bit about, stories as a way of knowing and connecting to the land. For us as the Chippewa Cree people, we were here in Montana, in Canada, and we have stories about our origin stories actually being from the Great Lakes area. We were created from the mud, the clay, from the ground, and that life was breathed into us, and we came alive. And so there's our creation story. There's legends of different people a long time ago that were medicine people that were able to speak with animals, with the plants. And that's how we have a lot of our medicines today. That's how we have our hunting today, and different things like that. But also we have our history of our how we got here today. For the Chippewa Cree people, we have a humble history. It took us about 30 years from the time of the buffalo being almost totally exterminated to uh, getting us a reservation. It took about 30 years between that time to finally get a place to stay here in Rocky Boy. And so the Rocky Boy Reservation was established in 1916. And from that time on, we were able to continue to grow and build our reservation. And now we call it home. But prior to that as well, prior to colonization, different tribes came to these Bear Paw Mountains where the Rocky Boy Reservation is at to practice ceremony, to conduct ceremony, to pray, and to find medicines. This was one of those places where all of that can be found. Again, we have our animal stories, as well as there's different trickster stories that a lot of our people have. And so these stories, when you can listen to them, they allow you to find that connection and realize why the things are the way they are. So, like, why do we have the stars? Why do we have the sky? Why do we have the moon, the sun, plants, animals? There's stories behind each and every one of those. And each of our stories, the way I believe it to be, is that if each of our tribes were to tell our stories and share it with each other, we would be able to piece together a whole long story of all of our people. Because I truly believe that we all come from the same place, and that's why there's no reason for us to have conflict and to hurt each other, to be any way towards each other that's harmful or hurtful. And so if we were able to come together and tell our stories, it would be like a big puzzle, and it could tell our story as human beings, and all the way from the creation to where we're at today. And so these stories, a lot of them we didn't traditionally write down, and a lot of them were maintained and passed down orally. And so that's how a lot of our traditional land management, our land relationship practices have been passed down, or through story, through teachings. Um, but when we don't have our language, we lose about 30 to 40% of that meaning. And so our language is very powerful, and it's connected to healing, to the land. And a lot of our knowledge, our language as well, comes directly from the land. Um, there's stories I've heard about people up north in Alaska having many different names for ice and snow and the different kinds of snow and different ice and all of that because that's where they live. But then on the Navajo reservation, they have many different names for sand and different rock formations and all of that because that's where they live in there's so many different kinds of rock formations there. And so language is the base of all of our culture, all our ceremonies, um, and who we are as Indigenous peoples. And so without the language, then we lose that connection to the land. For the Chippewa Cree people here in Rocky Boy, we have an estimated 7,000 enrolled members, and we only have 80 fluent Cree speakers left, and one Ojibwe speaker left, which is a pretty scary reality because without them, without our language speakers, without our fluent language speakers, we won't be able to conduct our ceremonies without the language. We won't be able to pray. We won't be able to sing our songs in the language. And something that was shared with me from my elders, they prophesized long, long time ago that someday in the future, this government, these people are going to come to us and ask us, are you Cree? Are you Chippewa? Then if you say you are, then they're going to ask you to prove yourself. Our CIBs, our tribal enrollment cards won't be of any help because they'll want us to speak the language, to conduct a ceremony or sing a song. And our elders told us that someday in the future we won't be able to do any of those. And we'll be crying. We'll be crying because they'll be able to take away our last home, our last places where we could comfortably practice our ceremonies, where we can go and pick medicines, where we can speak our languages and sing our songs without feeling any way and having that comfort of that home, of that community. And so for all of our Indigenous peoples, and I try to encourage our young people to learn our languages so that that prophecy that won't happen to us, and so that we could continue to have that strong connection to the land, and we'll be able to understand um, what the land needs, but also how we can um, harvest these medicines and these animals and these um, even the rocks, the water, the different things like that. Our ancestors used to be able to speak with the animals, to speak with the plants, the water, the rocks. And I believe that it's still possible to, if we can truly listen. But I also think that our modern technology has further separated us from our cultural teachings and our connection to the land. Because when our minds are so busy with everything on the news, everything online, even our jobs and everything like that, then we're not listening to the land and what Mother Earth may need. We're not out there in the land collecting medicines. We're not out there collecting foods, listening to the animals, seeing where they're moving across the land. Um, our ancestors used to be very knowledgeable about those kinds of things. And so I believe it's possible, though, to get to that point again in our lives, in our lifetimes, so that our future generations can have that for themselves and they could pass that on, our traditional ways of life. And so, again, language is the basis of who we are as Indigenous peoples. We need that for our identity, but also for our ceremonies, our songs, and our ways of life. And so, again, going from language to ceremony, ceremony is our connection to the land. Everything that's used in our ceremony, you get from the land. For our ceremonies, we use pipes. The stone comes from the pipe stone comes from the land. The wood comes from the land for the pipe stem. But also our different lodges that we have, they have different trees that we use to build our lodges. For the teepees, we have lodgepole pines that we use to build the teepees. And then traditionally we had buffalo hides that would be the cover of our teepees. And then also our different Sundance, maybe a Sundance ceremony, we use quake and aspen for our ceremonies. And so there's a lot of different things that we use that come from the land for our ceremonies. The food, we harvest a lot of, we call them June berries. Some people know them as service berries, or in Canada, they call them Saskatoons. Those are one of our main foods in our ceremonies. And so we need to make sure that we take care of the land so that it can continue producing those foods, those tools, those medicines, so that we can continue to use them. And I've heard stories from my great grandmother, who's still with us, and I'm really thankful for her, that here on the Rocky Boy Reservation, they used to be able to go out and find sweetgrass in a lot of different places. And now today, for myself and my dad, sweetgrass is a little more difficult to find. And it takes us about a couple hours to braid one braid of sweetgrass. And so there's different stories about how abundant it used to be. But I think with climate change, with the way we're slowly losing that connection and that relationship with the land, we're not seeing how we can continue to help the land, but also using the land. We may not pick sweetgrass as much as we used to. And our sweetgrass is unique because it doesn't seed out. It grows through the rhizomes and under the roots under the ground. And so when you pick the sweetgrass, it it it's encouraged by disturbance. So when you pick it and you leave the root in the ground, it'll grow more sweetgrass. And so the more you pick, the more it'll grow. And so different practices like that haven't been practiced for years. The same things as the fires that used to be conducted and used to bring buffalo in certain areas or to clean the land. We used our different resources, the water, the fire, um, the earth, all of that, the wind, to help us produce more food, to take care of the land. And so, part of my job and my understanding is to learn from our elders and to try and find pieces of what we used to do as Indigenous peoples to take care of our communities through food, through ceremony, and through language. And so, I bet um, I wouldn't doubt that a lot of you already know what traditional ecological knowledge is, but it's just the knowledge and the practices and the traditions that are acquired through our relationship with the land. And so again, like I mentioned, our relatives up in Alaska, they know a lot about the different kinds of ice, the snow, the winds up there, and the different animals up there. They have all kinds of different names for them. And then down south in Navajo country, they have different names for their rock formations, the sand, the different animals that live down there, the different plants. And so because we live in these places for so long, and that relationship, because of how strong it is, we're able to um, learn how to work with the land to find these foods, to find these animals to hunt. And it a lot of this knowledge is embedded deep down into our Mother Earth, but it's also deep down into our language. And so once we're able to understand our language and our connection to the land, we'll be in a good place where we can continue to help our Mother Earth, so that she can be here with us for a long time. And then just some of our traditional food systems. For us here in Rocky Boy, we hunt. We have white-tailed deer, mule deer, elk, moose, and then we also hunt small game, rabbits, prairie chickens, ducks, geese. All these animals are used. We also fish for different trout. We have pike, um, these different fish that we use to eat. And then we forage for different berries for foods, roots. We have service berries, June berries, choke cherries, wild raspberries, wild strawberries. We have currants, we have gooseberries. We also have different roots. So we have wild turnips, wild onions, wild carrots, as well as wild mint, and these different foods that we use for teas, for soups. And then we also, um, one of our traditional food systems, even though we didn't practice it in the last couple thousands of years, or maybe last hundreds of years, we have stories. Even though we're all the way here in Montana, our Cree people have stories about the corn and how the corn came to us. And so gardening and taking care of the land in that way is also one of our traditional food systems. And so one of our main teachings about our traditional food systems, um, I'll get to that. Let's see, right here. One of our teachings is for the Cree people, when we take something from the land, and I believe this should be a traditional land management practice for everybody who's using the land. When we take something from the land, we give something back. That's that reciprocity, that relationship with the earth. So for us, when we pick medicine, we give tobacco first to Mother Earth, and we ask her to allow us to pick these plants for medicine, but also for that medicine to help us feel well. But also, we ask for forgiveness for taking that plant or that animal. Um, but we ask that it could continue growing for a long time into the future so that more people can use it and they could heal from it. They could use it for food and different things like that. And um, like when people mine or they put in pipelines, do construction, I don't see anything like that happening in our modern days where these people are giving something to the earth so that they can have that relationship with her. And so that's why I believe a lot of these issues that we're facing today with climate change, with water contamination, um, these different things that are happening to our own people are because these people that are creating pipelines, creating mines, digging mines, aren't giving anything to the land. They don't ask the land to come into these spaces and take some of this dirt or these minerals or to dig out a whole area for a pipeline. Um, our relatives, they don't ask for those kinds of things. And so that's why I think now we have issues with climate change and um, water contamination. But I believe if we were all able to practice that and to have that relationship with our Mother Earth, it would be a better place. We'd be living in a better place. And something I always mention is that Mother Earth gives us everything that we need to live. Everything. All the plants for shelter, all the plants for food, animals for food, the water, the fire from the different rocks, um, and all of that. She gives us everything that we need. But she doesn't ask for anything in return. And so the least that we can do is to go out, pick up trash when we see it, go out and give something back to her when we take something, even as simple as a rock, to give her an offering for taking that rock. Because that rock is her child, that plant is her child, that animal, even bugs, they're her children. So we need to take care of them and to give something if we're going to take, to have that reciprocity, to practice that reciprocity. And so that's something that I hope a lot of other people can understand because it would help us as Indigenous peoples to maintain our lands, but also to help people find respect. When they can respect themselves, when they can respect our Mother Earth, then we could all respect each other and love one another. And so, with all these teachings, there's that love, that compassion, and care within each of those. And so, just to share some of these traditional land management practices that I've been taught traditionally from my elders. And some of these, maybe they are practiced widespread, maybe they're not, and they're just like what I've learned here in Rocky Boy. One of the main things though is that reciprocity, giving back. But one of the practices that I've learned from my elders is to, when you're picking medicines or even foods, to pick it towards the end of the summer season when these plants are seeding. Because when you collect these plants, you take, like for example, we use it's called cow parsnip. It's a big plant. And we use the root of it. But we don't dig up the plant until the end of the season when the seeds are coming out. And so when we dig up that root, we take the root off, we break it off the plant, and then we sprinkle those seeds that are on top of the plant, and we sprinkle them where that open dirt is, that where we just dug. And so more of that plant will grow the next year. And so that's just a way of maintaining that plant and allowing it to come back every year. And it's also, that's something I've never truly realized until recently. I always just heard my elders tell me, just wait till the end of the season to pick it. And I never truly understood why, or they'd say, when you pick these medicines, it'll grow more. But now, because of that practice that I've recently learned, the seeds will go back into the ground and more will grow next year. And so it's having that relationship with the land and allowing these plants to come back. And then also one thing I'd like to mention as well is being mindful of the places when we enter them. So we have a lot of our people have sacred spaces in these mountains, forests, different places like that. And anytime I go into these spaces, I try to make sure I'm in the right mindset, feeling well. I smudge myself, and then I go out into the mountains. Because traditionally we believe in spirits, we believe in the different beings like that. And so we need to ask for permission to be in these spaces, because these are the homes of our animals, of our plants. And we're going to be going in there. We may be disturbing something. And so we need to make sure that we're having that mindset where we're going in there with the right intentions of taking care of the land and using it for good things. And then some other traditional land management practices that are, for myself, I would think pretty obvious, but some of our non-Indigenous relatives may not know either. Not harvesting everything that we have, so that, again, you're sharing that with the different animals, so that they may eat and partake in that harvest as well. So that may be said about our berries, but also for our also for um, also for them to come back next year to grow again, and then again picking up trash, and then doing our best to go out in a respectful manner and not chopping down every tree, or I don't know if you ever seen, like, in those movies where they bring out a big machete and chopping down all those plants and stuff like that. We go out there in a gentle way, where we try to make sure not to disrespect those plants and take away from those homes that our relatives may be having. So going on to the next thing, I'm almost done. Just again, respecting the earth, having that relationship, harvesting. When we harvest, giving that tobacco, giving an offering. For the Navajo people, we give corn pollen. And then also, I recommend reading the book, The Service Berry by Robin Wall Kimmerer. She talks about this honorable harvest. And so I think this is a really helpful tool to have when you go out and harvest our traditional plants and our medicines. And you guys could either, if you'd like to take a screenshot, a picture, you could use that. but also it's in her book, and you may also find it online. So that's a really helpful resource when you're going to go and harvest. Okay, so thank you all very much. I hope I was able to share something helpful when you guys go out into these spaces to harvest our traditional plants, our medicines, our different plants that we use for weaving. For the Navajo people, we use the sumac bush to weave our traditional baskets for wedding baskets and different things like that. And so I know I didn't talk too much about our traditional fibers, but I'm happy that I was able to share about ways that you can respectfully go out into these spaces to harvest these different plants. So again, kitutamiya na wow, thank you all. And we could go into questions if anybody has questions. And
Go ahead. Satali, go ahead.
I didn't have a question. I thought it was the clapping. Great job.
thank you.
Hi, Watson. This is Fred. What a great presentation. I'm glad that you shared all of that information, knowledge, wisdom on a PowerPoint presentation, and you speak so well and so clear. And I'm so impressed that with your leadership skills, your articulation, your communication, and going back to the unity. You're the president or vice president, regional president. Can you tell us just a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, talk because the San Diego trip specifically, just a little bit about that because we sent some people from our tribe, Pomo, Big Valley Pomo, from California to Unity.
Okay.
Yeah. So do you mind just how was
Yeah.
that?
So that conference was an amazing conference, and yeah, I hold the position as the male co-president for the entire Unity organization. So myself, along with our female co-president, will go to different places to represent the entire Unity organization, all the youth councils on Turtle Island in the U.S., and we represent each of those youth councils and the changes that they're making in their communities, but also the issues that they're facing. We speak on behalf of them. And so at the National Unity Conference in San Diego, we were able to bring together around 3,000 Indigenous youth. And it started on, I believe it was June 26th. And yeah, June 26th to July 1st. And so throughout those days, we hosted different workshops for the Indigenous youth to go through to learn about leadership, to learn about different tribes as well. And so each of those nights we had a traditional culture night. And so different people would sign up to share maybe their traditional dances, their traditional games, or traditional stories and songs. And so that was a part of it. And then we also had the first night, Friday night, we had our relatives share some bird singing and they shared some stories and the meaning behind that as well. And so it was very beautiful to hear that. Um, and then as well, we continue on with we had a talent night as well. Different young people shared their different singing voices, their dancing as well. And then we had a gala and an award ceremony. And so those are the bigger events. And then we had different keynote speakers such as Kwana Chasing Horse that came and spoke. And she's a really huge advocate for our Mother Earth. And it was very inspiring to hear from her. And then again, we have different young people meeting other young people from, we had young people from California meeting people from all the way from New York City, or New York and North Carolina, And that's a place for our young people to create that relationship and family with each other, to see each other as family. I've built a lot of family through this unity organization. And it's because a lot of us face the same issues as young people, young Indigenous peoples, trying to find our voice in our reservations, in our homelands, even off reservation too, and trying to find that connection with our homelands, with our traditional teachings. And so, as Unity, we try to give those tools to our young people. We have different curriculums that we go through and take the youth participants through to teach about storytelling in our modern world, but also to teach about how to create a project and take it to your tribal council and to present it to them to hopefully make a change in your community. Maybe you want to host an event about awareness for drugs and alcohol, or to share about our traditional languages and teachings. And so there's different tools that we have to share with our Indigenous youth. And if you guys would like to learn any more about that, um, I have my Unity email right there, so you guys can reach out if you guys have any questions about Unity. If you have young people that are interested in joining Unity, you can look them up online as well. It's the Unity Youth Organization. You could look that up on the online, and you'll find more resources and how to get more involved in Unity. So we'd be happy for more young people to join us. So thank you for that question.
And something I think that was really important that you did bring up is at the beginning, you talked about land management and this shift that's really needed from management to relationship. And so that's like a really huge paradigm shift. And when we're doing this work to do it within that structure, it creates such a different not an end result, but I mean, just like different results.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to lift that up because that's, I think, really a real struggle, I think, that Indigenous people have when we're trying to get into these different fields, that it's within that structure of management
Yeah.
and being able to just to have your voice and say no, it's about relationships.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really important. And it's important to bring it on, tribal level, state level, national level. How do we build relationships?
Mm-hmm. And it like the way I think about it too, it's just a way of reconnecting with the way we used to think. That used to be as Indigenous peoples, that used to be our everyday lives. We had that relationship with our Mother Earth. We spoke to her, we asked her. And that's a teaching that I carry with me too, is that as people, we should never ever feel alone, because this earth, these plants, these animals, the clouds, the sky, the sun, the moon, everything, they're listening to us. So, just encourage all of you, I hope you never feel alone, because all of these different things are listening to us. And if we ever have anything on our heart, on our mind, we can share it with them, and they'll take that with them as well. So, just seeing that as relationship, the way you treat your mom, you should treat this earth as well, you know, to have that love, care, and compassion, just the way we do for our relatives, the same way we should do for our plants and our animals. So, thank you for bringing that up. Uh,
Julia?
yeah.
Thanks. And yeah, that was one thing I underlined in my notes too. That was a really powerful takeaway. But thank you, Watson, for this presentation. It was really amazing. Thanks for having me here. One question I had, because you were talking about how in spaces where you go to gather medicine and food, you're seeing fewer of these plants in some of the spaces. And I know I'm out here in California, and things that I hear about affecting this are like firefighting airplanes will drop the excess flame retardant onto forests, just as a way to get rid of it. And then that will put all of those chemicals into the forest and has a really big impact on the health of those plants and animals, and that forest being a place you can go get food and medicine. And I was wondering if where you are and in your space, if you know of any things that are kind of directly causing the decrease in this habitat and plants. If you have any thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that we've seen, and not through research and scientifically going through it, but by just being in the land, and hearing these stories about how it used to be, is our sweetgrass. And our sweetgrass, it grows in areas where you need a certain amount of moisture. So there's maybe a little creek going through there, and there's sweetgrass that will grow on the sides of it. And with everything being so dry recently, and us being in a drought, and then also there being less snowpack every year in our mountains, I think that has caused a lot of this our issues with these plants not coming back as much. And then another thing that I just realized this year too, going out, a lot of our berry bushes that we use for ceremony, and the berries we harvest from, they look, um, to me, the way me and my dad talked about it, they look sick. You know, the leaves on them, they're already turning yellow. But I'll have to do more research and look into it more, but um, there's something happening to these plants, and I don't know what it is. If it's because it felt like we had more rain this year than we did last year. Um, but last year, hail affected our berry bushes, and it got all the berries off the bush already before we could go out and pick. And then the year before that, um, the the berries started blooming, the flowers, and then it froze again. We had snow, and so then all of those blooms, they died off, and we didn't have much berries that year as well. And so there's different things year to year, it's different, but I think one of the biggest things is climate change, because um, it it allows for more unpredictable weather, and all these different storms that are happening, and then even for these snowstorms. Um, we used to have a lot of snow packed here in Rocky Boy. Even I feel like in my lifetime, and I'm only 20 years old, and it felt like it's different from when I was a kid going to school, um, and there would be so much more snow than there is today. There's way less snow than we used to have. And I think that's one of the biggest impacts and changes that's been affecting a lot of our traditional plants. And sweetgrass, we believe, is one of our most sacred plants because we use it to contact and speak with the Creator directly. And so when we lose that plant, what are we going to do? What are we going to use to pray? We believe that was one of the four main gifts given to us at the time of our creation as human beings, as Cree people. We were given that sweetgrass to speak and pray directly to our Creator. And if we don't have that on our reservation, then what are we going to do? So there's different things that we see by just being out in the land. But, hopefully by continuing my education in university, I could learn more about why things are the way they are, in that way. But also being out into the land too, and understanding more on a spiritual, traditional sense as well. So um, thank you for that question. Any more questions?
I just wanted to mention, just echoing that, yes, I'm very inspired by how articulate you are, in sharing all of these values. And I really do, I attended specifically today because you are a younger person, because just dealing, I work with a lot of the Native youth, and it's just so hard to, and I was really disappointed. My daughters couldn't go to Unity this year. It was a little too pricey this year, but I feel like it's so important, because with that, with the youth, they're inspired by each other, and they really need to see from each other that stuff modeled or being practiced in order for them to be invested in it. And so when you talk about, changing the relationship from land management to, relationships, it's something that's very difficult, especially to cultivate in urban youth, because they're so removed, from having relationship with the land and just exposure. And it just seems, I mean, to the point where, they're uncomfortable being, in the land. It's like, oh, it's the bugs and the sun and the heat and the cold, and it's just so there's a lot of obstacles, I think, to overcome when you're trying to integrate those values, and everything. And even telling them, everything starts with the land, everything starts there. And it goes back and forth, and so I I'm glad to hear that, that stuff's being, I guess, taught or implemented at Unity, because it's really important. It's really important. And even if, us as parents were trying to cultivate it in our children, it's such a risk of losing it for the next generation if we're not, if they don't see a value because their peers are not seeing a value. So, yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think it's really encouraging to see another young person encouraging you. Young people encouraging other young people is really helpful. And at Unity, we see that a lot, which is really awesome. But also, with the work that I've been doing here in my community, this past semester, I came home and did independent study by just visiting with elders and learning about our traditional ways of life. And so through that, I hope that other young people can see that, and we could come together to someday in the future go to ceremony together, to go and harvest these traditional plants together, to go and visit elders together, so that we can learn about our traditional ways of life, so that I'm not the only one learning everything, but we're all learning everything together, so that we could depend on each other. What if we forget something, or we can pick it up from where we left it off, or different things like that. And so I hope that we could continue to see more of our young people encouraging each other, because that's where it starts for our young people to go out and find that enjoyment in the different things in our communities, in our environment, in our spaces like that. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Watson. This has been an amazing presentation. Thank you for coming into the space and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with all of us. It's really inspiring to hear from a young person, and just how much knowledge that you have, because you've been able to collect all these different stories, and now you're able to share them with all of us. And it just goes to show just how much we all really, really need each other. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for giving me your time and attention, because as a young person, I only know a little bit. I have elders that know way more than I do, but when I'm able to share at places like this, then it also allows me to realize how much I've learned from my elders as well, the teachings that they shared with me and the stories that they shared with me. It's a way for me to, in a way, track my progress in what I've learned from my elders. And that's something this past semester that I struggled with, you know, because in our Western education, the way we track progress, writing everything down, recording everything, but traditionally, it's just through story, through it's passed down orally. And so being able to share in this ways allows me to know how much I've learned and how much I'm able to share. So again, thanks to the Native American Fiber Program for allowing me the space to speak. And you know, again, I'm very thankful for you all. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting now. I hope everybody has a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. We'll see you later.
Thank you. Bye bye.